Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone who's able to join us here today on Coffee Talk. That is at Coffee Talk Live on YouTube or Prepper University on YouTube, being simultaneously broadcast on the two channels, as well as X, formerly known as Twitter. And that would be at Coffee Talk Chat on Twitter if you care to look for me there, as well as, of course, we can't forget Fistful of Radio, fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta Monday through Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and Friday at noon as we get ready to jump off into the news. And of course, I will try to keep up with as many comments as I can, try to read them off so that people that are listening and not able to watch can keep up to the best of their ability with what's going on as I read through some of these comments really quickly. Chris Trapp is here. He says, teacher reported killed and several people wounded in France school knife attack. I'm not surprised, unfortunately. Helter is here. D'Lo is here. Dragon, Keisha, Fluke Man, Tukulanu is here. Monkey, Cyberjack Senior, Daniel, back up. Go on. A little conflict of interest between two of the cats there. Jack is here. Thanks for joining us today, Jack. Hope everyone is doing well. I see Boogers is joining us as well. And Tom E is here. Thanks for joining us today, everyone. For those of you who are able to participate in the live portion. And as I said, as we get ready to jump off into the news, I see Nathan Helix is here. He says 5 a.m. Sydney time. Sydney time. Are they still protesting in Sydney? Or not even a protest. It's more like a celebration. But anyways, personal news. The kittens are gone. As many of you are aware, my wife and I take care of a lot of stray cats, and we had the 3 kittens. They're adopted out already. They will not be returning from the vet. Miss Granny Smith, the cat with the wounded leg, will be coming back later this afternoon, and it turns out it's a broken elbow. It's a broken elbow, and their 2 choices are they can put a J cast on her, which will go from here all the way up to her shoulder and around her chest so that she can't get it off. Or B, we keep her in a cage for 2 months so that she can't jump around on it. And it's like, oh my God, you got to be kidding me. Unexpected expenses dealing with the cats. Anyway, as we continue on, Fluke Man says EU human rights expert says it's inhumane to remove protesters blocking roads. Really? It's inhumane to run them over too. And Johnny is here. He says, hello all. House chores while listening. House chores while listening as we get ready to jump off into the news. We'll take a look at something from New York really quickly here. And you'll be seeing this not just in New York, but all over the place, Chicago, anywhere and everywhere in the United States and in other parts of the country, as well as other parts of the world. This comes from the Mirror, the Daily Mirror. New York Police Department mobilizes in full force after Hamas leader calls for global jihad. And then Nathan, one more comment, says, not sure about the protest, but not sure about the protest, but I have to vote on the voice referendum later today. Okay. So now they're worried. Because Hamas leader calls for a global jihad. And I'll tell you, no problem. Nathan says there was a typo. No problem, Nathan. It happens. No man, biblically speaking, a jihad is a war proclaimed by Yehovah, by God. So no man can technically declare a jihad and have it be a legitimate one. Just for the sake of argument, I'm going to throw it out there because it's always these Muslim extremist groups that want to call jihads. Who told you you could do that? Nobody. It's like calling during the Crusades, the Catholics calling it, or the Catholic Church calling it, a holy war. You have no right to proclaim it a holy war. Although, remember, the Pope considers themselves to be Christ's vicar on earth and can speak on his behalf in his absence. And that's how that works. Eric Hill is here. Thanks for joining us today. And one more here from BV. It says, inhumane but not illegal to use my car to pass through protesters in Oklahoma. Good deal. No problem. And Keisha made a $5 donation to the channel. Very much appreciated, Keisha. I'm up to my eyeballs in it with the cats, trying to get them helped. Although rehoming them and getting them fixed and vaccinated, I get vouchers for from Halo House. So I don't have to pay for that. But the broken elbow, and they're like, the vet's flabbergasted. How the hell did that happen? That's a really unusual break for a feline. That one's going to hit me. So I appreciate it, Keisha. Thank you. Anyways, back to the article. Now everybody's worried because, and this is for all those people out there that said, oh, that's their problem. That's Israel's problem. That's Palestine's problem. I don't care. You fail to realize they want to bring this everywhere. And it's not just the United States. Because their chant, of course, again, is death to Israel, death to America. But they incorporate all of the Western world with that. So they will stir up their mess in Great Britain, in France, in Germany, in Italy, in Australia, in Canada, anywhere they can, they're going to stir it up. And he called for it. If you can get away with something, do it. And the article, reading in, and again, this is the Daily Mirror, New York City Police Department has been ordered to report in full uniform tomorrow after a Hamas leader called for a day of global jihad. Lowercase j. I guess whoever wrote this article realizes what the same thing that I explained earlier about what a jihad is. All uniformed members of the service in every rank will perform duty in the uniform of the day and be prepared for deployment. A memo said, according to the New York Post, the order will remain in place until further notice. And I'm hearing similar things in Chicago, Boston, so on and so forth. Khalid Mishal, the head of Hamas from 2004 to 2017, called for mass protests on Friday. What did he get voted out? We must head to the squares and streets of the Arab and Islamic world on Friday. He said he added to all scholars who teach jihad, to all who teach and learn. This is a moment for the application. And Mishal called on Israel's neighbors in Egypt, Jordan, Syria, and Lebanon to join. Mossad added tribes of Jordan, sons of Jordan, brothers and sisters of Jordan. This is a moment of truth. And the borders are close to you. You all know your responsibility. Yeah, we know what that means. In response to the New York Police Department's Joint Operations Center was activated, which consists of Situation Room 100 console positions, an operations center, and a conference room for the police commissioner. Each of the city's 77 precincts will have additional security to monitor entrances and other vulnerable areas. You can't police everything all the time. And they're here. These people that could be a threat are already here. You know they are. Thanks, Biden. Mishal added tribes of Jordan, sons of Jordan, brothers and sisters of Jordan. They're repeating themselves. I already read this. It's another paragraph of the same thing. I hate when they do that. But these people are already here. They're already here. They've been pouring over the border for years, unchecked. Again, I brought it up. I think it was Monday, wasn't it? For those of you who are listening, and if I'm off on that, if it was a different day, just go ahead and tell me. They had that point of interest from the border patrol, special interest alien, quote, and a special interest alien is an alien that they suspect of having ties to terrorism. And in the last 2 years during the Biden administration and the unraveling of the rules and the checking and the balances and the repatriation that had formerly been going on at the border, they let nearly 74,000 special interest aliens across the border that they know of. So they're here. they're here if they want to start things up. Jack says, as someone who used to be a Muslim for 2 years, jihad means to struggle or to fight against the enemies of Islam. The word is twisted nowadays to fit agendas. BV says, if they are rioting protesters. Monkey says, from reports, Israel is apparently reported using white phosphorus at the Gaza and Lebanon. I don't know if I've heard that. I don't know if it's true or not. Cruising says, drowning in cats was not the most humorous way to phrase that. Yeah, I see. And Cruising made a $10 donation to the channel. Thank you, Cruising. Very much appreciated. Goes a long way. Goes a long way to helping out. Keisha says, I think they'll be hitting the shuls and the synagogues. But Urban is here today, as well as preparedness veteran. Listening while working out, he says. Dragon says this vigilance is needed now at U.S. southern border. Shame on the whole defund the police thing happened. Going to make it a lot harder to defend citizens from radicals answering the call to arms. Yeah, I bet you if something really jumps off, they won't be so upset that there's so many armed citizens in the U.S. Ericol says, and they say and want never take advantage of a crisis. They want mass chaos, and every nation is bankrupt and corrupt. This way, there is something to blame or flush it. And Jack says sleeper cells all across the U.S. Johnny says they really want a global World War III, don't they? Some do. Tom E says there's a purge on the way. Nathan said, all I heard on the news is the police will be given power to detain and search protesters. Helter said too many people have forgotten about 9/11, I guess. Of course, there is reason for concern, whether it's a large-scale attack or fights between demonstrations getting out of hand. As I flip through these really quick, Helter says the Middle East is such a mess, and there is every reason to think some malicious actors might try to bring the mess to New York City. Yeah, why not? Why not? Who's going to do something about it? And these are some of the people groups that they again, it's a analogical thought process. It's a tribal thought process, and many of them are not above dying for it. Again, think of kamikaze pilots from World War II. It's the same concept. It's the same concept all the way around. They'll die to prove it. They'll die to prove it. That's why you have suicide bombers. Tom says, I'm only interested in earthquakes for wake up volcanoes and make radioactive tsunamis and sharknadoes. Nathan Helix made a $2.99 donation, and he says, for the kitties. Again, much appreciated. We get a lot. And again, the kittens are gone. The kittens are gone. The vet actually wanted them because people have been asking them. And so Halo House let them go ahead and adopt them out. They're gone already. That quick. But Granny Smith is coming back today. BV says even Henry Kissinger said that making the United States border so weak was a mistake because if America falls, the world goes too. What an idiot. If that's what you think, why did you do it, Henry? And I've got something from Henry coming up here shortly. As a matter of fact, I have an article because I wanted to talk about him a little bit as I open some more of these up. Really quickly, the next article that I have on the list from a senior Hamas official. This is Fox News. Senior Hamas official admits Israel attacks have been planned for years under guise of governing Gaza. And I had mentioned that the other day because it's been speculated they've been planning this for months. And I was like, no way, they've been planning it for years. They've been planning it for years because this was always the intention. Reading into the article, a senior Hamas official stated during a Russian television interview that the Israel attacks have been planned for years under the guise of governing Gaza. In the past couple of years, Hamas has adopted a rational approach. It did not go into any war and did not join the Islamic Jihad in its recent battle. Senior Hamas official Ali Baraka said in an interview that aired on Russia Today. The interviewer interjected, but all this was part of Hamas's strategy in preparing for the attack. Of course, Baraka said, according to the translation by the Middle East Media Research Institute, a nonprofit press monitoring and analysis organization co-funded by a former Israeli military intelligence officer and an Israeli-American political scientist. We made them think that Hamas was busy with governing Gaza and that it wanted to focus on the 2.5 million Palestinians in Gaza and has abandoned the resistance altogether. All the while, under the table, Hamas was preparing for this big attack. Baraka continued. The rockets of the resistance cover all of Palestine. Where would Netanyahu take the Israelis who were attacked? To Tel Aviv? We bombed Tel Aviv on the very first day of the attack. Does he want to take them to the Galilee? The northern front with Lebanon he opened today. The Galilee is no longer safe for the Zionist enemy. We can bomb the Galilee from inside occupied Palestine. The Israelis are known to love life. We, on the other hand, sacrifice ourselves, which was what I was just talking about. We consider our dead to be martyrs. The thing any Palestinian desires the most is to be martyred for the sake of Allah, defending his land. He continued, we've been preparing for this for 2 years. We have local factories for everything. We have rockets with ranges of 250 kilometers. I don't know if that's true. He might be just bragging at this point, but you get the idea. The part about many of them being willing to die for what they're doing is true. They are looking for martyrs. They are looking to set examples. That is a very Middle Eastern tribal mentality. Again, think kamikaze pilots. Catching up on comments, Monkey says some Israel Harvard board members had to resign due to 33 student organizations at Harvard writing a letter saying about how basically Israel is bad. I don't have the full letter, but yeah, that happened. I heard also that after the fact, many of them tried to retract their names from the statement. They tried to flip-flop and do a 180 on it, but it was too late. So you either mean it or you don't. If you did it and realized you made a mistake, if you feel like you made a mistake or you feel like you were wrong, that's one thing. But don't change your mind because you got in trouble. You know what I mean? Because that's just cowardly. Keisha said I would opt for the cast on the cat. Putting her in a cage for 2 months sound cruel. Just my opinion. And Tom says the Israel attack looks like a Chuck Norris movie directed by Crawford. Johnny said, yeah, I mentioned that too the other day. 3 to 5 years planning on this. People here in the U.S. think these attacks are spontaneous and haphazard. No, they just look that way because of how sloppy it is. And also remember that their attack, they planned on targeting civilians if they planned on it that long. Urban says the ignorance is shocking. Most people don't know that Gaza hasn't even been occupied since 2005 when Israel unilaterally withdrew all troops and evacuated the Jews. Gaza was left alone to their own. There's a lot people don't understand that. Again, I know a couple of people that are out there that know a lot more about it than I do, and I want to see if I can get them to come on and do a live collaboration where they can explain things from on the ground. But yeah, people don't get it. They're not even the original Palestinians. Anarchy says, hi from rural Minnesota. They're joining us this afternoon. Helter said, I wouldn't be surprised if Biden played a part in giving Hamas billions of dollars in incentives to launch their attack. Well, he kind of did by default through giving money to Iran for that trade and through other means. And that's why I made the comparison the other day of the Tet Offensive in Vietnam, where the North Vietnamese government sacrificed all of the Viet Cong in a strike. And I wonder if this isn't the sacrifice of Hamas, that Hamas thinks they're doing something like the Viet Cong did, because that, again, is an analogical thought strategy, which comes from their reasoning, the way they reason out things like this. We'll sacrifice all of them, and then something else will happen. Iran will make a move after there's no more Hamas, or some other group will make a move using Hamas as fodder, letting them be the pawns. And unfortunately, so zealous for what they're doing, not smart enough to realize they're being used, just like the Viet Cong did when they lost literally about 50,000 men in one night. Jack says, yep, dying in holy war pretty much means Muslims get Jannah, or their idea of heaven. And Tom says he's in Minnesota with Jesse Ventura. Okay. But there he goes, admitting that they planned for it for a long time. There you go. Oh, by the way, while we're talking about people putting their foot in their mouth, all the way up to their knee, as I say sometimes, by backing the wrong horse too early. Daily Mail, Starbucks union sparks fury by tweeting solidarity with Palestine. Why you want to bury your union by being political? If a union is being political outside of only protecting the employees that they're connected to, because that's the idea, isn't it? A union is supposed to represent and protect the employees that the union is attached to, that they receive dues from. That's supposed to be the job, right? They're supposed to act as a liaison. They're supposed to act on behalf of the employees, not um, dealing in politics, not making donations to politicians, and not making blanket political statements like this one. The Starbucks union, backed by Alexandra AOC and Bernie Sanders, has been condemned for posting on social media solidarity with Palestine. Starbucks Workers United, an affiliate of the Service Employees International Union, representing 9,000 baristas, has now deleted the posts, but not before they were spotted by the Washington Free Beacon. Yeah, you can't put something up and then change your mind and think you're not going to get screwed for it. Starbucks management strongly criticized the union remarks, saying they do not represent the company views. To be clear, we unequivocally condemn these acts of terrorism, hate, and violence and disagree with the statements and views expressed by Workers United and its members. Workers United's words and actions belong to them and them alone, the company said in a statement. Starbucks distancing themselves very quickly there. And I don't blame them. And not only that, but the union is making this statement on behalf of their employees who probably don't feel this way. But that's also one of the drawbacks of being in a union. The union speaks for you, but not with your voice. The Seattle-based company said it wanted to express their deepest sympathy for those who had been killed, wounded, displaced, or impacted following heinous and unacceptable acts of terror, escalating violence, and hate against innocent in Israel and Gaza this week. It added, furthermore, we are deeply troubled by the spread of misinformation, inaccurate headlines, and third-party social media posts stemming from statements made by Workers United. Unbelievable. That's what you do. But they all want to be political now, and that's a mistake. That's another reason why I don't like unions right there. Monkey says this conflict going on is much more tricky to fully report, unlike Russia and Ukraine war, where people mostly flock to Ukraine, but here it's tough to determine who's really good or bad. It's tough to determine who's good or bad in the Ukraine too, because we were basically told to support Ukraine. We were warned. If you recall, way back when it started, I had done a video where I talked about Google sending out a warning to people on YouTube that if you do not follow the press corps' narrative and speculate anything that looks like it's in favor of Russia, we will cancel anything you have Google related. Your YouTube, your Gmail, everything will go away. So yeah, we are really, you're really only getting one side from the Ukraine. Jack says if Starbucks goes under, whatever. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Johnny says, saw an older white guy this morning at Home Depot wearing a shirt that read "No War with Iran." I wanted to say something, but I just paid and left. Don't want to cause a scene. Yeah, there's no point. Let him believe whatever he wants. And the funny thing is, people who think they're in support have no idea that they're also the enemy. Like we were talking about, oh, what is her name? The senator yesterday, and she's got the Palestinian flag in front of her office next to the gay flag, next to the rainbow flag. And I'm like, yeah, go to Palestine and try that and see what happens to you. You won't survive the day. They will execute you for that. But she thinks she's going to be their friend somehow. No, you are their enemy too. Believe me. Cruising says too true on the union. Chris says, I'm late. Catch the replay. Well, thanks for joining us anyway. Monkey says, union should stay the hell out of politics. It ruins what its main purpose is. Fluke Man says, USA has authorized for Denmark to sell training for F-16s to Argentina to compete against China. Another war coming. Well, if you remember yesterday, recently more than 24,000, was it 24? 24,000 people from the People's Republic of China poured over the southern border. And that's the most that's ever come over the border from China. that between 2007 to last month, less than 20,000 have come across the border from the People's Republic of China. And then all of a sudden we get 24,000 out of nowhere. What are they doing here? And how come they weren't vetted? Monkey says, forgot about how Google did that. Yeah, they warned us. We haven't heard any warning about this. No one threatened us to pick a side with what's going on here. But we were definitely threatened when it came to the Ukraine and warned about how we should. And that's why I said I got to be careful when I talk about it. And I'll stop the buck at, we really don't know what the truth is. And I believe that. We don't know who's right, who's wrong, or what's really going on there for sure. There's no way to know. And this was brought up earlier, and I'm going to elaborate on it now. This is another one from Fox News. And it says, Kissinger says it was a grave mistake for Germany to take in so many migrants amid pro-Hamas protests. Okay, one more from Urban here. He says some analysts think that Iran sacrificed hummus to thwart the imminent deal between Israel and Saudi Arabia. Note, this is a rephrase of comment that YouTube flagged. I see. That's why you said hummus. Okay. And Stuart Lonan is here. Thanks for joining us today, Stuart. Glad you can get in on the conversation. So here we go with Kissinger, Henry Kissinger. Will this guy hurry up and die already? I mean, I'm not trying to be evil. He's 100 years old, right? He's 100 years old. This guy's, I think, done more damage than good in his life. But we'll go ahead and read the article real quick. Fox News again. Former Secretary of State Henry Kissinger says it was a grave mistake for Germany to allow so many migrants in, warning that it creates a pressure group in a country, just as Germany has seen pro-Hamas celebrations in the streets. It was a grave mistake to let in so many people of totally different cultures and religions and concepts, because it creates pressure groups inside each country that does that. The 100-year-old, there we go, former U.S. diplomat said in an interview with Germany's Welt TV. Kissinger was born in Germany and fled Nazi Germany as a Jewish refugee with his family before becoming America's top diplomat under President Richard Nixon and Gerald Ford. He was responding to a question about scenes in Germany where Arab protesters in Berlin streets, according to Welt, celebrated the recent Hamas terrorist attacks against Israel and handed out candy to participants. And that did happen. And here you see a picture of that. I don't have a grievance against the German people. I find celebrations about what happened, which technically was a criminal act, as painful, he said. Germany most recently took in significant numbers of migrants, including many from Muslim-majority countries during the 2015 European migrant crisis, with then Chancellor Angela Merkel declaring, "Wir schaffen das," or "we can do this." Yeah, Kissinger did not specifically mention the 2015 crisis in his remarks. Now, this is the thing. That's Kissinger's world. He's one of these people that kind of ushered all this in, isn't he? We're all one big melting pot bullshit. And now he's saying, oh, that's a bad idea. Is it? Is it? All these people that want to flood the borders in all of these westernized countries with people from all over the place with radically different viewpoints, who are not interested in adapting to the country that they're going to, who are very interested in forcing you to adapt to them, forcing you to bend, and you let them in and you don't know who half of them are, and now you're worried that there might be a problem. It's a little late for that, isn't it? Because they're there. They're in Germany. They're in Italy. They're in Greece. They're in New Zealand. They're in America. They're in Canada. They're all over the place. And people like Kissinger were in support of that until now. As we get along here, Johnny says, hey, Starbucks, customers pay for coffee, not political speech. Yeah, well, remember, it was the union, although Starbucks is just as guilty of being political when it comes to social justice stuff. Dragon says, this man is directly responsible for most of the conflicts in the Middle East today, and he has the gall to criticize someone who's trying to help. Kissinger is more cockroach than human being. Ouch. Stewart said, Kissinger had a big hand in destroying my country of birth. Rhodesia. Interesting. And R. Frost says, good morning from Big Arky Country. Thanks for joining us, R. Frost. Helter says, the only mistake here is the fact that this monster who's responsible for the murder of probably millions is still alive. Well, isn't that the way it goes? It's like sweet old Uncle Joe. And I'm not talking about Uncle Joe Biden. I mean Uncle Joe Stalin, because remember, his nickname was Uncle Joe. That's what they used to refer to him as. And same difference. That guy stayed in office forever and is responsible for the deaths of nearly 50 million of his own people. Tortured them to death, or executing them, or working them to death in work camps. Monkey says, if Kissinger was involved in Rhodesia becoming Zimbabwe, and then Zimbabwe really effed up their economy with massive hyperinflation into the quadrillions of dollars. Yeah. And BV said, dear Lord, I see what you've done for Feinstein, and I want you to do the same for Kissinger. Oh, yeah, I know. Well, you've seen the old, the cartoon. There's like a comic strip cartoon of death at a claw machine, and he's trying to pick people out. And Kissinger's in there somewhere, and he's trying. Keith Richards is in there too. Ali says, I was looking at flight radar, and there was an awful lot of surveillance planes up from Washington State to Florida. I bet. And Urban says there's a book titled The Trial of Henry Kissinger by Christopher Hitchens. It is damning. It might be good reading. I don't think I've read that. It might be good reading. Chris says, Marcon says there was a second attacker they stopped. But there's Kissinger. Now all of a sudden there's something wrong with that Kissinger, right? And he's still in politics. Guy's 100 years old. These guys just don't go away. They just don't go away. Evil never dies. Evil never dies, as they say. And yeah, we were talking about that earlier, Chris. He says every single New York police officer on duty today. Yeah, they're out in full force to try to deter. That's as a deterrent. That's to let people know who might try to jump something off that we're out here. Doesn't mean it'll stop them, but it will. That's the reason they're doing it. Show of force. Show of force. As we jump to the Washington Examiner, it says illegal immigrants from Middle East arrested at U.S. border over the last 10 days. You should have been arresting them there over the last 10 years. 2 days is a little bit late now. Cruising chimes in on Christopher Hitchens. He says anything written by them is good reading. And Rodney says, seems I should have used hums or the like. My previous comment seems to have gone by. Yeah, again, ScrewTube will censor the crap out of you, even in the comment section. So you do have to be careful. BV chiming in, he says the tube is censor happy. Yes, they are. That's why I say ScrewTube sometimes, because they really put the screws to you. Getting into the article, illegal immigrants from Middle Eastern countries have been caught and arrested by Border Patrol agents on the United States-Mexico border since the start of the month, a cause for concern in light of the Hamas terror attack in Israel, according to a Republican senator. Senator Steve Daines of Montana visited the Rio Grande Valley in southern Texas Wednesday to learn how people were traveling through sometimes more than a dozen countries to get to the United States, and was alarmed by the number of people coming into the country, particularly those who could not be chased down, because they don't catch all of them. They don't. There's probably twice as many in the country as they think. Since the 1st of October, Border Patrol agents have apprehended individuals from, get ready for it, Afghanistan, Algeria, Bahrain, Bangladesh, Egypt, Indonesia, Iran, Iraq, Jordan, Kazakhstan, Kuwait, Lebanon, Libya, Malaysia, Morocco, North Korea, Oman, Pakistan, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Somalia, Sudan, Syria, Tajikistan, Tunisia, Turkey, Uzbekistan, and Yemen. Daines said in a media call following his visit, this is just in the last 10 days. In particular, breaking from the article real quick, I find North Korea very suspicious. More so than the others, because they'll shoot you going in and out of there, and they're tighter than any of these other countries. Back to the article, concern over the threat of terrorism has grown since the weekend's terrorist attacks in Israel by Hamas militants who killed more than 1,000 Israelis, as well as raped, tortured, and beheaded women and infants during the hours-long attack. Along with the deaths in Gaza, the toll is at least 1,800 lives lost, including 11 Americans. It's 27. It's 27. That's incorrect. That they know of. Since the start of fiscal 2023 last October through August, Border Patrol agents on the U.S.-Mexico boundary have caught 151 non-U.S. citizens who, after being processed, were determined to be on the FBI's terror watch list for being a terrorist or affiliated with someone who was. The 151 figure, which Danis highlighted during the call, is the highest annual number in the Border Patrol's 99-year history, surpassing the previous record of 98 people in 2022 and 15 in 2021, according to Customs and Border Protection. Thank you, Joe Biden. You know, it's a little late to start trying to arrest them all now. They're already here. And again, these are the ones that were on the watch list that were arrested. The special interest aliens were allowed to leave. The special interest aliens are the ones that were not already identified on a watch list, but are suspected of being connected. So now what? They're already here. You're late. You're really late. And Johnny says, just watched Zero Population Growth last night. Good movie. Yeah, I mentioned that earlier in the week. ZPG, Zero Population Growth. Really interesting post-apocalyptic film. Chris says, huge pro-terror protests in all the Muslim countries. Keisha says, I'm not a political figure, but even I know if you flood people into a country, you're going to have problems. True. Chris says, North Korea probably sent them to spy. I wouldn't be surprised. And Helter said Trump addressed this problem back in the mid-2010s, identifying countries of particular concern, but he was deemed as racist and phobic. Yeah, I remember. And BV said either the dude who ran across to the north side of Korea has literal dumb luck, or there are no mines left working in the area he ran through. Yeah, I don't know what was up with that. The one guy, and that's funny too to think about, the one person who tried to cross into North Korea's border, and they threw him out, repatriated him. BV said he was utterly useless to them. North Korea kicked him back out. Yeah, like a couple weeks ago or a week ago. Chris said the vast majority of Muslims support violence and justify it in the Quran. And then Johnny says, extremely difficult to leave North Korea. More than likely, those North Koreans are part of their inside government and were sent here by the government to gather intel. And that's possible. That's very possible. That's why I was saying that's surprising. And they're out there now stringing up Continista wire all across that border, because now suddenly Biden cares about the border and wants to shut it down, wants to block it, but they're still flooding here. The word is out, and they're coming from all over the world to our northern and southern borders. And meanwhile, Poland has a fence all the way around it with drone surveillance. It never should have been allowed to happen in the first place, and now it's going to be hard to stop. It's going to be very difficult to stop the influx of people coming from every possible country. Hardly any seem to be coming from South America. The majority of them are from all over the place, mostly Africa and the Middle East. And it's a problem. It's a huge problem, not just in regards to being a drain on the economy and damaging to taxpayers, and as well as culture shock to the people who live here, and an increase in crime and an increase in prostitution and an increase of unsanitary conditions and so on. Again, it would be cheaper to send them all back where they came from. It would be cheaper to deport them, or as they like to say, repatriate them, because it sounds nicer to put it that way. Send them all back before it's too late. Dragon says the Biden administration allowed millions of illegals in unvetted. His administration's actions has caused lots of problems. He willingly put us in grave danger. That's very true. Urban says, didn't the Biden administration have to rewrite over 30 of their own anti-wall laws, so they could build the wall? I'm not sure, but yeah, now they want to rebuild it. And they sold the leftover components that were purchased under the Trump administration for 2 cents on the dollar. They took a complete bath on it. Now they got to buy the shit back. Brilliant. Chris says it's too late to close the border and that there's lots of Chinese. Yeah. BV said, no, the fence isn't going to keep anyone out. It's to keep us in. If you think Gaza is the world's largest open-air prison, then I have news. Every government is an open-air prison in one respect or another, pretty much. BV says there's another America you can go to, or is this it? No, this is it. And unfortunately, it's one of the best shakes you're going to get, globally speaking. As bad as it may be here, it's still better than it is in most countries. Chris said bed bugs everywhere now because of third world migrants who have lower standard of hygiene. And Rodney says Western government have been welcoming the flood of illegals in a giant game of wedge politics. Even here in New Zealand, wedge politics is very effectively used against us. And Ali said put mines and the USMC there, turn it into a DMZ 2.0. Well, we got plenty of crocodiles. We got crocodiles and alligators, and we could build a big moat on the other side, on the front end of the wall, and fill it up. And we could, it could be like a contest. It could be like, what's the name of that movie? I'm trying to think here. The Running Man. Only instead of prisoners, it could be your entry into the country. Prove that you're fit to be an American. Jumping through traps and over walls and wrestling gators. And there you go. BV says, LOL, Florida, you're up. Yeah, I know. Instead of like killing them for shoes and really tough meat, they could just transport them to the southern border, dig a big moat. Yeah, Keisha says, yeah, NYC is eat up with bed bugs. So is France. France is drowning in bed bugs. It's unbelievable. Getting back to the border here. Getting back to the border. I'm all for it. Yeah, a moat and a wall, like in the old school moat and wall. And and all kinds of traps, and people could be hanging by their ankle from like a snare trap, and bear traps, and all sorts of things. Oh, and on the other side of the wall, we could put grizzly bears between the wall and another line of fencing. Yeah, see, you got to think ahead. Stuart says London is also bedbug infested. I've been seeing reports on that. Johnny says, do they still give out those tests to become a citizen? Questions about America. I wish they did. I don't know. I don't know if they still have proper citizenship standards, because it used to be this whole process, and you had to learn the history, and you had to learn English, and you had to, you had to see a social worker, and it took a long time. Yeah, Cyberjack says, like the Atari 2600 Pitfall game. There you go. Make them earn it. New York Post, getting back to the news. ICE admits a record 5.7 million migrants in the U.S. Biden wants to provide medical service and housing to all of them. Make up your mind, Biden. Immigration and Customs Enforcement is currently overseeing 5.7 million migrants in the U.S. Now, remember, these are just the ones they know about, okay? These are just the ones that they've received in the last couple of years that they know about. The record number of non-detained migrants being monitored by the federal agency, 2.4 million more than before Biden became president, was buried in paperwork detailing its release and reporting management program. RRM. I think RAM would be a better anagram. The plan is for private companies to join ICE's monitoring of migrants through ankle monitors, phone apps, and in-person check-ins. And put ankle monitors on all the illegal immigrants. I love it. However, the initiative also aims to provide a range of other perks to the non-citizens on the taxpayer's dime. There it is. The program would cost billions and effectively be a welfare program for non-detained migrants awaiting court dates, which will take years, by the way, I'm sure. Former ICE Director Tom Homan told the Post. The RRM is just a push by the open door advocates to provide welfare benefits to 6 million people, the former ICE director continued. The Biden administration has experienced record-breaking numbers of migrants crossing into the U.S. illegally. James Kiovum, RRM, is anticipated to replace all of ICE's non-detained programs and would apply to the entire non-detained docket. A question and answer form ICE published in September reads, clarifying the current non-detained docket is 5.7 million. Those held in ICE detention for processing at the border or in facilities awaiting deportation are not included in the 5.7 number. The services for all RRM participants would include legal assistance, psychosocial services. Psychosocial services? What the hell? Therapeutic services. Do they get massages too? That's therapeutic. I want a massage. Medical services, food and clothing banks, housing, public transportation, information, parental information, education information, and repatriation and reintegration services, according to the RFI. These services are designed to increase participant compliance with immigration obligations through information stabilization and support. Services will be individualized to each participant's needs and may range from basic referrals to intense direct assistance. So basically, you want to bribe them to not act an ass once you let them go. That's what I'm hearing. That's what it sounds like to me. They're going to give legal assistance to illegal aliens at the taxpayers' expense to fight the government, he said. All the services combined are a massive giveaway that are going to cost billions of dollars. The Biden administration has let 99% of migrants who have come over the border during his presidency, a congressional GOP report found on Monday. It's more than 99%. As you recall, we talked about that a couple of weeks ago. But anyway, catching up some of the comments here. Urban says pretty soon it'll be Running Man to get the heck out of Canada. Yeah, I know. Stuart says London, bedbug infested. I think I read that. Let me catch up here. Fluke Man says, how did the majority illegals cross the ocean? Mostly by crappy fishing boats. Oh, yeah, I wonder if they were funded, because most of them probably flew into wherever they landed. They had to have been funded. How'd they get a visa? How'd they get a plane ticket? Urban says not only would illegal migrants be given rent and expenses, but after going to Harvard, their student loans should also be canceled and paid for by working taxpayers. I know. Give them a fair shake, huh? Harvard's getting really nasty and liberal. Johnny said, don't forget free internet and free Obama phone. I remember the Obama phone. I remember that. Chris says George Soros bought their plane tickets. He gave it to him personally. Free plane tickets, free visas, free an allowance for snacks on the trip, because you know the airport food's expensive. I remember the Obama phone. You know what's funny about that is my son who went to Job Corps, one of the kids that he was in Job Corps with sold him his phone. And he had the Obama phone, the free government phone. He didn't want it. He wanted a real one. So he sold it to my kid for something real cheap, like $20 or whatever. He had that phone at Job Corps for 2.5 years, never paid a thing on it, and it always worked. It always worked. Chris says Americans are getting fed up with being the lowest priority. They are, and it's going to backfire sooner or later. There's only so long you can keep up with this. Remember, it's 5.7 million wandering around, and they want to put ankle bracelets on them and give them a free meal ticket. And that's not counting the ones that are sitting in camps waiting to be processed. And that's not counting the ones that they don't even know about, which could be twice as much. It could be 10,000, 11, 12,000, or 12,000, 12 million people, and they don't even know. They don't know who they are. They don't know where they are. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know what their intentions are. We can't afford this. We can't afford this. The American taxpayer shouldn't be asked to continue to be burdened with this sort of thing. It's insane. Tom says, I'm trying to start a nuclear hell in Europe using Italian supervolcano. You're still on that? Cruising said that phone may have been the only thing in government working during that time period, and your tax dollars paid for it. I forgot all about that. I remember him telling me that that he bought that phone from that kid in the Job Corps, and he still had it when he came home 2.5, because he was in Job Corps for 2.5 years, taking mechanic studies, auto mechanic, and it's just a crappy phone, but it was free and it worked, and that's enough. It's insane. It's insane that you are paying for that for people. Hey, uncle, come here. Come. Hold on. Got a visitor. I can see if I can get him to come. He usually responds to his name. Good boy. Come here. Oh. Uncle, everybody. Never misses a meal. 20 pounds of feline fury. Tuxedo cat extraordinaire. Yes, he is about 20 pounds. Just under. Isn't that right? And he's a big baby, too. Look at him. Great big baby. People are scared of him because he's so damn big, but there you go, everybody. There you go, everybody. Cameo by Uncle coming in to say hi. I love how he comes when you call him. Good boy. You a good boy? You want to come and see what I'm doing? I can't hold you up for too long because I got to flip through the comments and I need the mouse. So I'm going to set you back down, buddy. There you go. Anyways, Fluke Man says your son's coworker sold him his phone because he wanted a real phone. Yeah, well, coworker, student, co-student, because it's a vocational school paid for by the government, is the Job Corps, which is one of the few government programs I actually agree with, because you take people who otherwise, because they live on campus at Job Corps, they stay there. And they only come back on holidays, like they come home at Christmas and stuff like that. But they stay there, they study, and stay focused on one vocational course. And his was in auto repair. So, yeah, he had one of the other kids there, because they're all teenagers, had the Obama phone, and he didn't want it. He wanted to buy, your regular smartphone like everybody else has, because it was just better, and he sold it to him for like $20 or something, and he didn't have a phone at the time, so he was like, yeah, I'll do it. And the thing worked for the whole 2.5 years because the taxpayers just pay for it. All People says the Obama phones are partially funded by a Mexican billionaire named Carlos Slim, who believes in open border and wanted the phones used for illegal migration. Skinny title, Little Uncle. Yeah, skinny, tiny little uncle. All People says, yeah, he ain't tiny, he ain't skinny either. He don't miss a meal. Nathan says feline fury or feline furry, looks cuddly. Yeah, he is. He's a big baby. He started out very feral when he first turned up looking for anything. They come to the food. If we put food out and people dump them out here, they'll find us. We don't stumble over them too often. But yeah, he mellowed out a great deal, and now he's a big baby. All People says, wow, Job Corps sounds like a college campus of sorts. Yeah, it's one of the few programs from the government, again, that I agree with, because you're taking people. He wasn't doing good in high school, didn't want to go to high school anymore, wasn't really a candidate for college. And it's like, do you want to look at Job Corps? And he looked at it and he was like, yeah, you know what? I do want to do that. Went out there and stayed on campus for 2.5 years. They pay for everything, room and board. You live in the school, it's like a college campus. They pay for all your meals and everything. You get a little something small allowance, like $15 a week or something like that, just for some spending cash, because there's a community nearby, and you study. And it's no politics. There's no social bullshit. It's just you pick your study course. I think they have a culinary arts one, and they have one for plumbing. They have different hands-on kind of things for which every school should do. If you're not suited for academic study, That's a good thing to do if you're young enough. And I was like, yeah, go to Job Corps. I'm in agreement with that decision. Anyways, speaking of illegal immigrants and Biden administration, since we're on the subject, and this comes from the Daily Caller, sweet old Uncle Joe, he wants to take care of those immigrants even further than what you already just heard about. Monkey says jobcorps.gov. Yeah, it says 16 to 24-year-olds can enroll. Exactly. And like I said, it's a good program. That and WIC, because I've seen WIC, Women, Infants, and Children programs, do really good also, and that's government funded. Very little else. I would sit there and say, yeah, that's a government funded program that I'm not gonna have a problem with. But Daily Caller, Biden administration threatens banks that refused to lend money to illegal immigrants because not only should we pay for their room and board, not only should we pay for their medical, not only should we pay for them to get psychological treatment and prescriptions, and not only should we pay for them to get physical therapy and give them clothing allowances and use taxpayer dollars to put them into public schools and get them free transportation and all the rest of it, and legal services, free legal services, banks should be giving these people loans too. And the article says the Biden administration released a statement Thursday warning financial institutions against using a person's immigration status in credit applications. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and the Department of Justice released joint statements telling financial institutions that while it's not illegal to consider a person's immigration status in their decisions on whether to lend money, an over-reliance on it could run afoul of the law, according to the statement. The statement implies the Equal Credit Opportunity Act, which makes it illegal to discriminate on the basis of race, color, religion, national origin, sex, and more, is considering a person's credit application as the mechanism, even though, and this is the key to it, the law does not list citizenship status as a protected attribute. So under the Biden administration, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and the Department of Justice are telling credit agencies, we're watching you if you're going to be using people's illegal immigration status to vet them from receiving a loan. They cite the Equal Credit Opportunity Act, but the Equal Opportunity Credit Act does not list citizenship status as a requirement. So what the hell are you trying to do? Intimidate the banks? I think that's it. Fair access to credit is crucially important for building wealth and strengthening household financial stability. How about doing that for your citizens? Rohit Chopra, the CFPD director, said in a press release, the CFPD will not allow companies to use immigration status as an excuse for illegal discrimination. It's not illegal discrimination because the Equal Opportunity Act doesn't include illegal aliens. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Keisha here says, okay, does Biden want them here or not want them here? I'm confused. He wants to play both sides. I guess he's one of these people that thinks if he plays both sides, that he can't be wrong. But you're twice as wrong if you do that. Johnny says sometimes depending on what it is for, it is proper and righteous to discriminate. And he's talking about the banks there. Yeah. Because, I mean, you want me as a bank to give a loan to a person that I cannot track down to pay it back if he defaults. That's what you're asking for. If he defaults on that loan, takes the money and skips the country because he never should have been here in the first place, or God knows what, disappears, or turns out that his name and identity was fake, then that money is gone. That money is gone. And yeah, I know it's insured to a point, but the more they have to draw on that insurance, the more the premiums go up for everyone else who's doing it honestly, until it can't be done anymore. And they're going to try to push banks and threaten them with a law that doesn't even apply to the situation. I tell you, I fell asleep one day and woke up in a different America. Urban says, I went down the rabbit hole of info on Carlos Slim. Wow, he owns 17% of the New York Times. Yep. Helter says, U.S. taxpayers are up to their necks in debt and bills, and now we have to humor this foolish president's ruinous loan plans. Yeah, pretty much. And everything else he decides to do. Everything else this guy decides to do on your dime. Again, it's real easy to spend other people's money. Other people's money. And that's all it is. These politicians, they don't care about you. They're supposed to be in there and be transparent and be good stewards of the trust that should be there and of the money that is taken from you by force. And they're not doing the job. They're not doing the job. Johnny says, discrimination was used against me when I got my house. Ever hear of a background check? And what did I have to prove? What I make each year in income. Yeah, everybody has to go through that. And Cruising says, have to slide out for work. Have a great weekend. Well, I have to slide out too. We're at the top of the hour. And I will thank everybody who was able to join us this afternoon. I hope you got something out of the conversation. Hope it was meaningful to you. Remember, again, this is Coffee Talk. So if you want to find us on YouTube, it is at Coffee Talk Live, or Prepper University also on YouTube, or at Coffee Talk Chat on X, formerly known as Twitter. And remember, Fistful of Radio. So fistfulofradio.com, where you can find me Monday through Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and Friday at noon. And again, special thanks to Keisha, Cruising, and Nathan, who made donations to the channel today. Very much appreciated. Goes a long way towards us helping all the stray animals that we take care of here at the cat ranch. I rarely get a dog. It's almost always cats. But thanks again, everyone. I hope you have a good weekend, and we will hit this up again on Monday.